everybody. This is Hani again from the global team at the Business Consultants in Japan, and today I'm very happy to be with again one of our most experienced Master LIFO practitioners, Robin McNatt. Robin, thank you very much for accepting our invitation today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you very much, Robin. So, Robin, would you please tell us a little bit about yourself?
Of course. I've lived in California for about 22 years. I moved to Southern California to work with Nestle. And throughout my career, I've always headed up human resources and organizational development, and moved to Northern California about 2 years ago, where I continued a consulting career that I started in 2010.
Interesting. Thank you for sharing that. Could you please tell us, when was your first encounter with LIFO?
My first encounter with LIFO was with a women's leadership client that I got involved with in 2012. I immediately saw the value in LIFO, and not only did I facilitate, I was able to expand the curriculum to include more of LIFO throughout the past 7+ years.
Interesting. You know, Robin, many people out there, they confuse LIFO with the last in, first out accounting term.
Exactly.
So they call us, whenever a client hears about LIFO for the first time, they tell us, are you an accounting firm? Are you an accounting consulting firm? We tell them, no, it's something different. So
Right.
could you tell me, what is LIFO to you?
LIFO, and I get that same exact question from my clients. LIFO really, to me, is a strategic communication tool and process. So I even use the expression, it's the Rosetta Stone of helping both individuals and leaders to build more collaborative teams. And once they get over what it's called, because it's life orientation, I mean, that doesn't necessarily be top of mind in the corporate workplace. When you drill down and you look at the fact that you can use it to enhance your own leadership style, you can use it to interact with others more effectively, and you can use it to transform your organizational culture. They don't care what it is, they just want to start using it.
Thank you very much, Robin. So what do you think different in LIFO than other similar training programs that may be out there, like DISC analysis, DISC, or MBTI?
Myers-Briggs, those are the big
Myers-Briggs
ones.
or StrengthsFinder or stuff like that.
Here's what I really value in terms of bringing LIFO to my clients. The fact that you can really identify your behavioral preferences during favorable and unfavorable. It's that snapshot profile of how you change, because that's what confuses people in the workplace. If you're showing up one way and then all of a sudden, unbeknownst to anybody else, you're having a bad day or you're stressed out, how you change in that contrast is what creates a lot of the turbulence in terms of the communication and the relationships at work.
Actually, in a recent interview we had with Dr. Ken Royer, he mentioned that because he does a lot of family counseling, he say that some husbands, they come to him saying, this is not the woman I married long time before. And his finding is that because along the marriage there are a lot of stressful times and a lot of unfavorable conditions.
Right.
And for sure, we are human beings. We are all human beings. Our behavioral condition changes in favorable in our unfavorable conditions than it is in the favorable conditions. So it's something that now Robin McNatt has shared with us, which is that one of the key differentiator of life orientations than other training programs is the fact that you get your results and you get your profile in two different conditions. One in your favorable conditions, and the other one in your unfavorable or adverse conditions.
And that would be the first piece, is know thyself. Be able to manage and regulate yourself. Knowing, and I view it comparable to a radio dial. Your favorite song, you're turning up. A song you don't like so much, maybe you're turning down. And with the work that I do with organizations and clients, it's all around, when are you maybe churning up that one song too much? And it's not really appropriate for the situation. So you need to have awareness. Looking at LIFO is very easy to interpret, and looking at where are you in a borderline excess area? And especially of the 4 different communication preferences, one being controlling taking, that has the heaviest hit and lands the hardest on people. And knowing when can you soften your approach and generate a better result. You don't have to work that hard. Like, just dial that back, pick up on the behavioral cues of others, which is the second reason why I really love LIFO, is because it's so easy to be able to manage your communication with other people when you pick up on those cues.
Interesting. Thanks for sharing that with us, Robin. You've mentioned earlier that you've used LIFO with an organization that cares about women leadership. Could you please tell us more about this experience?
Absolutely. So what's fascinating about women's leadership is the fact that there is what I would call a narrower bandwidth of perception in terms of what's effective as female leaders. And what's great about that is that that range, that effectiveness, is what makes most leaders effective overall. So it really doesn't matter at the end of the day if you're female or you're male. It's what are you doing? And LIFO translates very well to really understand which of the behaviors or preferences are more geared towards relationships and which of the behaviors and preferences are geared more towards tasks or credibility. You need both. So LIFO helps you to look at, for my leadership effectiveness, what natural preferences do I have and what are some adjustments that potentially I could make, either to eliminate an excess because I'm coming on too strong, or increasing a strength that you have that you're just not using as much.
That's very interesting. I'm curious to know what would be some of the comments or some of the feedback that you get from the users as clients or individual. I mean, as organizations or as individuals of LIFO.
Right. Nobody has said, "Can I get a refund? This isn't working for me." That's a great sign.
That's great. Yeah.
And one comment that really stuck with me, it's pretty recent, was from an individual who had attended a group training session, and then I offered a follow-up 30-minute complimentary coaching session. And her specific comment was, "You've given me the best career advice in such a short amount of time using the LIFO tool." People had been telling her the same message for years, and she only got it when we looked through her LIFO report.
Interesting. Can you tell us more about that experience?
We looked at, I believe, of the various versions of the LIFO report, we use the highlight report. And of the whole highlight report, I narrow it down to about 4 pages. And we just looked at the color-coded quadrants of behavior, and we looked at, once again, tying it back to the radio dial, what are you overusing? What do you need to reduce? And let's look at your least preferred preference. I know you don't want to do this, and what do you think you should demonstrate behaviorally a little bit more because it'll serve you better?
Interesting. Thank you for sharing that with us, because it actually brings us to a very important point, which is the fact that LIFO has 6 developmental strategies. Could you please explain to us more about that?
What's great about all 6 strategies is the fact that you get a little bit of each strategy along the way. So it's not as if, because nobody wants to hear that you're about to give them 6 strategies to do anything. So what I've managed to do in my consulting is really combine strategies. So the first one would be the confirming. So having that self-awareness in terms of what is working for you. What are your strengths? Let's validate those strengths, with your coworkers and other people you're working with. Another strategy is around modifying. So that's the dialing down that radio button, because at the end of the day, you want to be effective, and you could be overusing what is perceived to be as your most comfortable preferred behavioral style. The third one has to do with that extension. So what are you doing to look at areas that maybe you wouldn't naturally use, and yet you do have strengths in those areas. And with coaching, you determine situationally what the situation calls for to help you be more effective. So those are really the ones that you can do with one-on-one coaching and with group training, and then looking at the performance of the overall work team in the organization. One way to think about those strategies is around the concept of influence. So really knowing how to be heard. So knowing how to read somebody else's style and work with them from a productivity standpoint.
Interesting. Robin, what are the companies or the industries that you usually work with?
Every industry. Really, every industry, every size company, everywhere in the world. I facilitate a lot of LIFO work done virtually, so via WebEx.
Wow.
And recent organizations have included consumer packaged goods, tech companies, also, you name it, government, healthcare. There's really no industry that can benefit from LIFO.
Very interesting. Can you share with us one of the recent examples?
I'll share one recent example, which was the business school at UC Irvine. Through executive education, they had a women's leadership certificate program. They brought me on board to facilitate one of the sessions. The session was around this leadership zone of effectiveness, utilizing LIFO. And it was only an hour, and the depth of information that the participants walked away with truly was life-changing for them. I've had a lot of follow-up, a lot of additional interest in bringing LIFO back internally to their companies.
I'm very happy to hear that. So what were some of the comments you got from them after the workshop?
Stay for dinner so we can talk with you more. Would love to talk with you about bringing this into my team here on campus or in my new role that I just obtained outside of the program. Partnering opportunities to co-facilitate in retreats. And I introduced this tool. So if I don't have a lot of time and I'm working with a client and it's for sort of their first introduction to LIFO, I always bring in the SLIDA style tool from the perspective, let's talk about, now that I give them the overview of how to interpret their report. And then I want to leave them with something to think about and something to apply. And in this particular instance, it was all around influencing different key stakeholders, working with different work groups more collaboratively. And everybody, for less than $10, this is probably one of the most influential tools that a leader could keep close by and work with.
For those of our audience who doesn't know about this unique tool, could you please explain a little bit more about it to them?
Absolutely. This is my favorite tool. The LIFO SLIDA style communication tool gives you an overview of all 4 styles. So what's great about it is, depending on your style, you can slide these features and know for the other 3 styles, what approach will make them tune in, tune out? What if you have a manager with this style? How do you influence them? And, ultimately, what's most important for that person to know? There's so much that is unsaid. It's called, I like to call it the left-hand column. And that's about what do you really need to know about what the other person is thinking to be able to influence them, and they'll never tell you. And on this tool, you can read here, so for example, what approach makes them tune out. So if you're not the same style as me, I have some insight in terms of what will draw you into the conversation and what will shut you down from the conversation.
Thank you very much for
So it's on both sides. So every style, you'll have some insight in terms of how to communicate more effectively with them.
This is very helpful, and I would personally keep it close to me whenever I have a meeting with my boss, even, or with a colleague of mine with whom I would like to propose something, or even with my friend if I'm going out with her. So it's very unique tool and helpful in any kind of situation.
Right. Yeah. And you just can read into what's somebody excited about. Do they get excited when you send them an Excel spreadsheet? Send them more. Are they excited when you show them a picture of your dog? Show them more family pictures and focus on that relationship. Do they want you to, they give you 5 seconds to deliver a message and then they expect you to be out of their office? Well, then leverage that in terms of your communication. Or is it somebody who's just thinking about the overall dynamics of the group? We give off so many behavioral cues, and this tool almost makes it too easy in interacting with others, because for those people who aren't familiar with LIFO, they're not doing this analysis. And yet, for my clients, I hear so many stories of, I was able to get the budget dollars, I was able to get the head count, I was able to get hired for a position I didn't think that I was qualified for, just by really fine-tuning their communication skills.
That's very good. As you know, LIFO has several different applications. So we have the LIFO leadership survey, LIFO selling style survey. We have also a feedback survey for the leadership. So we have the LIFO leadership another person survey, which gives us a 360 approach to what would my subordinate think of my behavioral style as a leader. What would my boss even think of my behavioral style as a leader and my leadership behavioral styles? What would my colleagues, my colleagues at the same level think of me as a leader? So we have also different other applications and different other surveys, like the teaching style, learning style, parenting style, and partner style. Which of those do you use the most?
I definitely use the individual online survey along with the another person's survey, and during the live virtual coaching and the virtual training sessions, I'll have the participants try to guess their leader style and get that validated through the another person's survey, because LIFO done can be a real-time 360 where you're getting that multi-perspective feedback on the other person, and the other person may never it doesn't matter if the other leader takes the survey. What's important is the fact that you as a leader have the ability to be able to work with them more effectively, because either you're guessing their preferred styles or you're having somebody work with you to validate your style. And I've done that one at home too. In terms of how it can be insightful, I had my husband do an AP, another person's style on me. And what I found out is, for as much work and effort that I put into being less controlling taking, none of that registered with him.
Interesting.
So I just need to have awareness in knowing that the very subtle things that I do can have a big impact on relationship dynamics.
I see. Thank you, Robin. What would you like to say to someone who is considering or thinking of using LIFO as for his own benefit as an individual, or as an employee in an organization, or even becoming a LIFO trainer in the future?
Right. The first step would be, when I just share the prospect or the prospective opportunity of just take the online assessment and schedule a 30-minute coaching session with me as a first step. Let me help understand your intentions and your motivation as a leader. Let's just look at that, and then from there we could build a plan to decide where we want to go. Everybody who has taken that online assessment wants to do more with LIFO. They want to give that survey opportunity to their direct reports, to their peers, to their coworkers, and then it usually ends up with my doing some initial group training. So my advice would be, just get started. You really have nothing to lose. It is such a high impact, low cost tool to really build the dynamics at your workplace. It's hard to believe that there are organizations out there that haven't used LIFO yet.
Exactly, because LIFO doesn't stop at the workplace, or it ends by the workshop. It's actually a lifestyle tool that you can use whenever you go in any situation.
And it's so appropriate that we're having this interview here today, when, being recently evacuated from my house, and knowing that as soon as the fire flared up on Wednesday, knowing that during unfavorable conditions, my conserving holding increases. So I get very process-minded. I had everything packed, ready to go, and then it took me until Saturday evening to shout at my family, which would be the controlling taking excess, that we're leaving now versus 4 in the morning, which is exactly what happened. We had a mandatory evacuation order at 4 in the morning, and I knew I would be much calmer for the household if we left earlier. So.
Robin, why do you think would an organization or an individual approach you for asking for your support?
There are various reasons why an organization would approach me. Some of the key reasons are having new team members to integrate, wanting to take that team performance to the next level, providing more in-depth leadership, training, and coaching for a high-performing team member or even a team member who's struggling. And ultimately being able to influence key stakeholders within their organization. All good reasons.
All good reasons, and all of the reasons that you've mentioned now, I believe available in any type of organization, many organizations out there.
I like to say this probably is not the best way to pitch the workplace, but if people got along more effectively, then consultants would be out of work. And it's not an intentional thing as to why people don't get along. It's just because of these differences. They're just differences in life experiences. It's differences in how people are seeing the world. And there are so many fun and compelling exercises in life. For example, the exercise around what are the 4 ways to grocery shop? What are the 4 ways to ride in an elevator? And it just hits home. And this isn't about bad or better. This is about how do we leverage and optimize all of these preferences? Because at the end of the day, organizations need every single style represented because that's what fuels innovation. That's what fuels growth and also represents their customer bases.
Thank you very much, Robin, for allowing us some of your time. We are now in Sonoma County in Northern California, where there are fires close by, and you had to leave your home, evacuated, and despite this fact, you allowed us some of your time. So we appreciate this, and we thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much.
Highlight of my day. Thank you as well.
Thank you very much, Robin.